Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and this is going to be all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of April. Not as many as what I'd usually get, but I'm saving for HorrorCon in Sheffield in about 3 weeks time, which I can't wait to go to. I'll do a video on that. But yeah, for this month we'll get straight into it. So first up is actually a bit of a heavy hitter. It's a extreme kind of shockumentary DVD, and actually a massive holy grail for the collection. And this is Banned in America 5, which is just a clip show of really kind of graphic, unpleasant stuff. I don't recommend it, but this actually completes my Banned in America collection. I had 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6, and it really irritated me that I didn't have 5, and finally managed to find it. So very happy to finish off that franchise, that series, and add another shockumentary to the collection. So that's Banned in America 5. Okay, next up is a movie called Children of Sin, which is kind of a low budget sort of indie psychological horror film. These two kids, they're like siblings, and they're left by their mum at this kind of religious halfway house. Their stepdad's all horrible and abusive, and I think as a result she leaves them there. But this halfway house is really weird, and the woman that runs it is weird, and I'm not giving anything away, but behind the scenes they're killing off a lot of the kids, and things get a bit creepy and a bit uncomfortable, and they have to try and get out. It's not too bad. It didn't start off great, but when it gets going and they get to the place, it's pretty cool. As I say, it's just quite low budget, but yeah, pretty decent in places. Some good kills in it. Not too bad for a low budget indie effort. Okay, next up from 88 Films is The Creeps from Full Moon, and this was a really fun film. I did enjoy this one. I've never seen this Full Moon movie before, but this like mad scientist, he takes all these old horror manuscripts like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and things like that, and he plans to recreate the old classic monsters for his own use, which he kind of does, but they come out as little people, and yeah, he tries to harness them, but it all goes a bit wrong and a bit crazy. But yeah, it's a really fun film. I did enjoy this. It's got some cool looking monsters in it. Really good full moon movie from The Creeps, and nice addition there from 88 Films. So good to finally check that one out. Next up is a film that I've not heard of before. It looked kind of interesting. Got Tom Savini in it, and it's a 3-disc DVD as well. And it's a film called The Dead Matter, which was okay. It's kind of like there's this group of people and they do this seance, and it raises the dead. So there's kind of these zombies walking around. But then there's also this thing with this like vampire lord, played by Andrew Divoff, who sports the most ridiculous blonde wig I've ever seen. And he's trying to do something, and there's an amulet or something which gives them all the power. It's okay. It feels very much like a sci-fi TV movie. Not a great deal to recommend, but I did kind of enjoy watching it. But I don't know how many other people would like it. So interesting story, some cool looking zombies and creatures in it. I don't know, it's just lacking a bit of something, but interesting to check this one out. So that's The Dead Matter. Okay, next up from SRS is another sort of shockumentary with death cases. Now I picked this one up because it's kind of a rare one. I came across this on eBay and it wasn't cheap. Gotta say, it was awful. It was absolutely dreadful. There was no sort of genuine footage or anything like that. It was just a horrible looking fake, I think it was Russian sort of shockumentary, but absolutely nothing went on in this one. It was really bad. I was a little bit burned by this one because yeah, I did pay out for this because of its limited release, and it was absolutely awful. But never mind, I've got it for the collection now. It is, as I say, had a very limited run, so it's good to have it for collectability purposes. But oh my goodness, yeah, do not rush out and try and find death cases. It's awful. Best thing about it is the cover, the artwork, which I'll put up. But other than that, oh god, this was horrible. Horrible looking film. Okay, next up, this is quite a cool one. It's a Trauma DVD, and you don't see this around very much. It's quite expensive whenever you see it. And it's Decapitated, which is sort of a silly Trauma-style slasher in the woods with these college kids. They go into the woods for some reason, and there's this weird cross-dressing killer, from what I remember. But it's very silly. It's funny in places, but it misses the mark in other places. There's quite an annoying lead character in it that is doing his best to give off his best Jim Carrey impression, and that gets a bit irritating. But yeah, it did have some fun moments. I like the wood setting and it being a slasher. But yeah, very silly, very ridiculous, typical kind of Trauma entertainment. I had fun with it. I've kind of forgotten most of it now, but it's good to get this one because, like I say, Decapitated is not one that you see around all that much, so that's pretty cool. Okay, next up from 88 Films, I picked up the 4K of Hell of the Living Dead, zombie creeping flesh here in the UK, as it was known on the Video Nasties list. And been years since I've seen this one, and I really enjoyed rewatching it. I think I enjoyed it this time around even more than before. It's an absolutely crazy film, a little bit like sort of zombie flesh eater style, where they're in this like village and the zombies taking over. But then it really gets a bit kind of crazy and almost goes a bit Mondo-esque and shows a lot of stock footage of exotic locations and animals and ceremonies and things like that. Pretty cheesy, pretty tacky, some awful dialogue. The best actor in this is probably a 6-year-old child who turns into a zombie in what is a pretty good scene, actually. And I've got to give that kid credit. He's a much better actor than any of the adults in this film, which just kind of tells you what you can expect from this one. But yeah, it's pretty good, pretty wild. And then they almost kind of throw in like a cannibal holocaust aspect where there's a cameraman running around following them in the wild and things like that. But Hell of the Living Dead's always made me smile because the zombies in this are dressed exactly the same as the zombies, the soldiers in this. The soldiers are dressed exactly the same as the soldiers in Dawn of the Dead. It's almost as if they walked off the same set, and that always made me smile. So yeah, this was a good one to revisit and really nice addition from 88 Films. I can definitely recommend this 4K. This 4K from them. Okay, next up is Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer 2, which I did talk about on my channel in a video. I brought this one up because it's a film I've never heard anyone talk about, and I just came across this cheap. I found it. There's not a great deal to recommend. I can see why this one's gone under the radar. It was alright, but it's certainly nowhere near as good as the original Henry, and I've got to say Michael Rooker was sorely missed from the sequel. So yeah, not a lot doing here, but good to check this one out because, like I say, I used to see it around quite a bit, but no one ever mentioned it. Can kind of see why now, but never mind. Oh god, right, next one. Okay, this is just a really silly one, and this is The Hills Have Thighs, which is an absolutely ridiculous movie. Complete kind of spoof parody of this group of people that go into the desert supposedly looking for a missing friend, and they kind of come across these women, but it's like 1% horror and 99% just like people getting naked, sort of almost like Fred Olen Ray style, but no monsters or anything like that. It's hardly any kind of horror in this one. It's just really silly, sort of sexy time spoof, which it was okay, but it's like, gosh. So yeah, a very very silly one. I love the title, but oh my goodness, yeah. So that's that one. Next up is a recent one from Arrow, The House That Screamed, which is a Spanish film, I think, from about 1969, 1970. I watched this one the other night. It's okay. It's got some kind of cool gothic atmosphere and some pretty good interior locations of this big house, but it's really slow. It's set in this sort of boarding house for these girls, and there's a killer going around, but oh yeah, my goodness, they really do take the time with this one. It really does drag. I did struggle to get through this one. Not one that I enjoyed all that much, but this it's released as A House That Screams. It does come with an alternative cut as Finishing School, which is a bit longer if you wanted to see the longer cut. So again, really nice edition, great edition here from Arrow, but yeah, this not really did much for me, this movie, unfortunately. Okay, next up, I've just done an unboxing of this, so I won't spend too long on it, but I got the In Search of Darkness trilogy, all 3 documentaries on 80s horror movies. Really looking forward to checking this out. Can't wait to go through all 3 of them, but I just need to put some time aside to do so, because these are like 5 or 6 hour documentaries each. But from what I've heard, they're absolutely awesome and they don't disappoint. So yeah, I've got a bit of time off work next month, so these are definitely on my list to watch. But yeah, great to get the In Search of Darkness trilogy. Next up is an interesting one from Arrow. This is The Leech, which is kind of like a psychological home invasion kind of movie, where it's this kind of a priest and he is trying to do the right thing by everyone, and he takes in this like wayward homeless guy and his girlfriend. He doesn't really want to do it, but he keeps preaching to do right by people and to pay it forward. So it's kind of within his sort of own beliefs that he should take them in and give them access to his house over Christmas until they get on their feet. But they're really not cool people. They're pretty horrible, to be honest, and they're really kind of like deadbeats, and they're just really disrespectful to his house. And it just kind of escalates from there and gets crazier and crazier and darker and more violent. So pretty well done film. It's like a modern indie type film, and it is pretty good. I hated the subject matter, because like the idea of someone coming into your house and being horrible and you can't get rid of them really got to me. So great, really well done film, but oh gosh, yeah, it did get under my skin a little bit, which I guess is a good sign. So yeah, The Leech was pretty good. Okay, next up from Arrow, this is a new release. I picked up Lover's Lane. So this is the exclusive Arrow artwork. I actually prefer the more general release artwork, which I'll put here. But yeah, this it's okay. So this is a slasher film from 1999, which is primetime slasher time for me. I love late 90s slashers. Got to admit, I never heard of this one until Arrow put it out. And I watched it, and I was a bit disappointed with it, to be honest. I was expecting a lot more. It didn't really, I don't know, it didn't have that late 90s appeal, which is what I was going for. And it just seemed like it lacked a bit of spark. So it didn't have like the sleekness that Scream had, for example. The killer was a little bit disappointing as well, because it's like this hooded figure with a hook hand, which has kind of already been done with I Know What You Did Last Summer. So I don't really sort of get much inspiration from the killer. So yeah, no, not really a lot going on in this one. It's I think this was Anna Faris's first film, if that's of interest to you. But yeah, I didn't really care for this one. It was disappointing. Certainly nothing to swoon over. Anyway, so yeah, that's Lover's Lane. Okay, next up. So this was a good one from 101 Films. This is Never Sleep Again, the epic Nightmare on Elm Street documentary. Really interesting stuff. This is another long one. I think 3 or 4 hours long. But it covers every single Nightmare on Elm Street film and the sequels. So we get interviews with everyone, pretty much everyone involved with the films, apart from Johnny Depp. It would have been awesome if he was on this. But yeah, all the cast and crew from all the sequels and everything was on this, and we get lots of information and rhetoric on the making of the films. I found the whole thing really interesting, and I like it when they cover sort of the sequels. Like, you can, with these kind of franchises, you can often find a lot of information on the first film, but sort of part 3, 4, 5 and things, you don't always get a lot on the making of, but this goes into detail on all of them. So I really like this one, and if you're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, this is definitely a must-see documentary. So that's Never Sleep Again. Next up is another documentary, and that is Shock Cinema. And I haven't watched this yet, it's another really long one, but I think this is like a documentary into the making of sort of low budget B-movie filmmaking. So it's got a lot of those kind of those B-movie people, so like Michelle Bauer, Fred Olen Ray, Jeff Burr, those kind of filmmakers that produce that kind of stuff, and it's a documentary about that kind of thing. So I'm hoping this will be really interesting. Again, you don't often hear too much about these kind of lesser B movies, so I'm looking forward to checking this one out. It looks pretty cool. So that's Shock Cinema. Okay, next up from Netflix, this is pretty cool. I picked up the Things box set, so closer look at that. So these are just really low budget, shot on video monster movies. Yeah, really low budget. Some cool artwork there, and then this awesome creature there. That's from the first one. He's pretty awesome. And then some cool stuff there as well. I gotta say, the artwork in this is sort of better than the movies themselves. They are really amateurish. But this is a really nice set. You get Things 1, 3, 4, 5, and then there's a couple of other ones in this as well. You don't get Things 2. From what I can find, there's a bit of an issue with the rights to that one, but there is space in this box if that ever does come out. But yeah, so these are okay. The creature effects in it are pretty cool. All sort of low budget practical effects. Try and show you the inside. So that's the inside of the Blu-rays. I'd kind of liked a bit more monster action in these. There's a lot of talking and a lot of wasting time, and the trouble is the acting is so bad they can't really do that. So I would have liked a bit more monsters in it. But what was in it is pretty cool. But they are like, it's literally like people in rubber masks, that kind of thing. The production in this is extremely low, but really nice box set from Netflix. It's the same as the Camp Blood and Axe Grinder box sets and things that I've got. So yeah, I have gone through all these and enjoyed them for what they were. If you like shot on video, no budget stuff, you might enjoy Things. So yeah, cool box set there. Okay, next up I picked up the classic sci-fi film This Island Earth, which I have watched this countless amount of times, but I've actually never watched it, which is a bit of a riddle there in itself. And the reason behind that is this is the movie that they watch in Mystery Science Theatre 3000. And I've seen that film countless times, but I've actually never watched This Island Earth on its own without the Mystery Science Theatre commentary. And it was awesome. I really enjoyed watching it. I kind of thought that something would be lacking and that I wouldn't be able to take it seriously when I've watched Mystery Science Theatre so much. But I've got to say, I had a whole new experience watching just the film, and it's a really good film. It's a better film than what I ever gave it credit for. It's such an awesome, well put together sci-fi movie, and it was a joy to see it in a different, kind of more serious light, even though I love Mystery Science Theatre. And then of course in this you've got the Metaluna Mutant, which is an awesome creature, kind of underrated monster actually in horror and sci-fi. So yeah, This Island Earth, absolutely awesome. If you do like your classic sci-fi and 50s movies, this is a top recommendation. And as I say, great to see it on its own, but it's also funny to watch it with Mystery Science Theatre. So yeah, that's This Island Earth. Next up is another one on the Video Nasties list. This is Unhinged. Never seen this one before, so it was good to get it and tick it off the Video Nasties list. It's got a couple of good kills in it, some quite graphic kills, but my gosh, it's slow. This one is really plodding. It's these three girls that have a car crash and end up in this big sort of gothic house where this old lady lives, and they spend most of the time talking around the dinner table, to be honest. You can kind of get a creeping unease that something's not quite right, but very little happens, and it does drag on. As I say, the kills in it are pretty good. I can kind of see why it got flagged up, but at the same time, I don't know how anyone made it through the film to get to the kills. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but it was slow. But there is kind of a cool, kind of a gender twist end to it, which I thought was pretty cool and pretty sort of forward thinking for like 1981 or whenever this came out. So Unhinged, not bad, but you got to know you're getting into a slow burn. That's that one. Next up is another Video Nasty. This is a cool one, but it's just kind of a bootleg DVD, and it's the Werewolf and the Yeti, which is a really hard one to get. So good one to tick off the list, even if it is just this cheap DVD. And this is a Paul Naschy film from 1975, and they're on like this expedition to find the Yeti, and he ends up getting lost or something and ends up in this castle run by these two women who I think are vampires or something, and they bite him, but he's a werewolf, and it's just typical kind of Paul Naschy werewolf film. I thought it was really cool. I always like his movies, especially his werewolf films. I really like kind of the Yeti subplot because I love anything like Yeti and Bigfoot, and yeah, it was just a cool movie. Not really Video Nasty like, but yeah, I did enjoy it. If you like Paul Naschy's kind of Euro horror werewolf movies, I can definitely recommend Werewolf and the Yeti. It was a cool one, although a little bit sort of trashy and ropey, but yeah, great movie. And then last up is another sort of shot on video one I picked up called The Zombie Army, which I've not had a chance to check this one out yet, but this is just another really low budget zombie movie from 1991. Like I say, shot on video, so you got to know you're getting into very sort of low budget territory, but it looks pretty cool. I'll check it out and see what it's like. So that's everything that I got this month, guys. Feel free to let me know what you think of any of these movies. If you like any of these or not, let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.